Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, RavSavvy, and just decided to do a little story time because I have so many great stories to tell. I figured you guys could really benefit from this. Um, the last one I spoke of was about the Gayatri mantra and the experiences I had. I want to talk about some of the stuff that happened when I was growing up that was really interesting. Um, One of the first really interesting things that happened to me, I think, was around age 8, and this was in Brooklyn, New York. I was going to PS 254 school in Sheepshead Bay at the time, and I remember we lived right across the street from the school, which was really cool. And at that time, my favorite thing was my night lamp. I had a blue colored night lamp, and it was really cool because it had all these different colors swirling around in it. So I took a lot of security in having this lamp on at night, and my sisters would sleep further down on to the left side of the room. The door would be here, parallel to me. My bed against this wall here on the right, diagonal to me towards the left, would be my sister's bed. Both of them on that bed there, and two windows facing that direction, so you get an idea. I remember one night I was sick, and I wasn't feeling too good, and we went to sleep, and I didn't think much of it. I'm 8 years old, so I'm just like, all right, let me go ahead and go to sleep. But then that same night, I woke up, and my head was pounding so hard. I remember this. It was hurting so hard. I couldn't figure out why it was hurting like this, and I ended up trying to move to get up off the bed because the pain was so strong. When I tried to move, I couldn't get up. My body felt like it was weighing like 1,000 pounds, or a couple thousand pounds. It was like I was on a different planet, and the gravity was much heavier there, so I couldn't move myself. That's what it really felt like. It was really strange, and it's funny how that can you can make that parallel there. It's really interesting, actually. Makes me wonder, if movement also and being sick has an effect with gravity somehow, or is it just the body only? Just speculation. I like to do that whenever I think of things. But that night, I knew my parents were in the other room, directly across from us, and since I couldn't move, I figured let me call out to my mother, and I started trying to call out to her, and the only thing that came out was I wanted to say, "Mom, help! I'm not feeling well." What came out was, and that was it. And I said, "Okay." I started thinking something's wrong here. I can't make actual full words. So then I tried again, and I said, "Mom, help! I'm not feeling well." And nothing. What came out again was, so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know too much at 8 years old, but I know that I'm in trouble. So I said, shit, I have to get someone's attention. And that was a great spiritual story, and I say the word shit. Sorry about that. Just me being me. I try not to act like if I'm spiritual. I'm just me telling a story, okay? There's no high priest here or guru or anything. Just Indian guy that's telling a story. And I thought in my mind, if I threw myself off the bed, someone would hear me, And to me, when I looked over the edge of the bed, it looked like looking off a cliff. It was like that far down. I mean, it was scary. So I knew my sisters were asleep. They didn't hear me going, and they were knocked out cold. I could see my blue lamp there, and I wanted to go and turn it on, but I think it might have been actually on. No, they usually turn it off afterwards. And I remember looking around and then taking another look off the edge of the bed. When I look off the edge of the bed, I could see how far down it looked to me. And I said, all right, it's either now or never, because this doesn't really feel good. So slowly, I started creeping off of the edge of the bed. And when I got my torso far enough off, my body just free falls from there. The beds were usually a couple feet tall, right? So I'm an 8-year-old, and I don't know how much I weighed at the time. I know a lot less than I do now. And I ended up going to the edge of the bed, torso off the bed, and all of a sudden my body just went, free falling down, and you just heard thud really loud. And I could hear my mother saying, some reason she instinctively knew to call my name. And it was funny. And all I could do was go as loud as I could. And then she called my name again, and I said as loud as I could. And then she came running into the room, and she looked at me, and she goes, "What are you doing off the bed?" And I looked at her, I was like, and I couldn't make a word. She came over, and she put her hand on my forehead, and she goes, "My God, you're burning up." And she picked me up off the ground, which was, I give her credit for this. Even though I'm angry with her about a lot of things, I give her credit for knowing this. She picked me up, put me inside the bathtub, and ran cold water on me because my temperature obviously was very high, and I was suffering from an extremely high fever. When she took the temperature at the time, it was almost 104 or something, like somewhere around there, where it could have really either caused brain damage, which some say I do suffer from, which I don't believe, or it could have actually killed me. And luckily, it didn't do either, and I'm still here. But I do give her credit for that. So I mean, if she's listening, thanks. In my own way, I'm saying it. Okay, but this gets even more interesting because this is not even the best part of the story. The story goes on as she takes me and lifts me up and after drying me off and stuff, and puts me in the bed to lay down with her and my father. And we lay down there until they start getting really sleepy, and then she checks my temperature again and starting to actually go down. And then she says, "Okay, you seem a little bit better now." So she took me and brought me over to my room and put me in bed. And she said she's gonna lay down next to me. So I said, "All right, cool." I'm a kid. I'm like, all right, who doesn't want their mother next to them when they're not feeling well? So I went and I lay down, and I know that she said, "Go ahead and go to sleep." And I said, all right. So I went to sleep. And the next thing, this is where it gets weird, okay? Remember, I'm 8 years old, no drugs involved. Okay. I go to sleep, and when I wake up, I'm standing at the foot of my bed. I can see my mother on the bed on this side, but I'm standing close to where my lamp is at the edge of the bed, down at the bottom where my feet are. And literally, this whole side of the room where my sister's on, their bed's not there. It's all dark, and it's a cave. But the other half of my room is normal, with my mother there. My mother's actually up, but she looks like she's in a trance. Her eyes are open really big, and she's just like this, staring. And I keep yelling for her, and she can't hear me. Really weird. So I'm standing there looking back at this cave, trying to figure out what happened to that side of the room and where are my sisters. Next thing I know, I see these two heads appear, the lady's head and the man's head, and they're just floating in the air. And one says, "You belong to us, you have to come with us." And I looked at them, and I was like, I turned back and looked at my mother, and I'm like, "I'm not going anywhere with you." They said, "Don't disobey us, do what we tell you. You're very bad, you have to do what we tell you." And I looked at them, and I was like, "I'm not going to do anything you say." And they started saying things to me that got me upset. And I looked down on the ground, and I saw, because we were in a cave, rocks. So I started picking up rocks and throwing it at them and hitting them with the rocks. Obviously my instinct was to fight. I don't know if it was the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but then they started, rethinking of taking me. And I remember my grandmother. She's passed now, but she was the most spiritual person in the family. She comes from one of those Brahmin castes. Not that means anything, but she lived like one. She only studied the Bible and only talked about Jesus. And, it wasn't just studying about Sanskrit and the Hindu faith. But I think anyone can be a Brahmin in the sense of how to describe it, because if they live their life accordingly only to biblical, or the nobility of that, or the idea and the philosophy behind it, like I see a lot of people do, they to me are considered like Brahmins. Whether you're an imam, a Catholic priest, or a Christian minister, or whatever. I think all of them who study the Bibles, and even the Jewish Orthodox rabbis, I think they're all Brahmins because they choose to study that and live that type of life. So what I decided at that moment to do was to listen to my grandmother. What she told me, she says that if you ever find yourself in a situation that that there's no way of getting help, call on God and ask for God's help. So, being that I got that advice, I actually did that. And I remember starting to pray and just saying in my mind, God, I need your help. And lo and behold, I turn around where my lamp was. Like something came out of a lamp, like a light or something. I don't know if it came out of the lamp or something, or it took the color of the lamp. It was almost bluish in color, very light bluish in color. And it was a body that was made of light. Now, if I look back about it and I think about it, it almost looked like a holographic person. It was weird. So it was really strange. But the only difference is that it was able to touch me with the light body, and it looked at me, and it, I was a little kid, and I just kept looking, and I couldn't figure out, what that was. And then it reached out its hand and it said, without moving its mouth, I could hear its thoughts. It said, "Didn't you just call on me?" And I was like, "I called on God." And then it looked at me and just kept the hand out. So I said, "Okay." And I was still kind of skeptical, but I felt comfortable because it was almost reminding me of my lamp. And then I reached out my hand, grabbed the person's hand or the being's hand, and then it turned and looked the other way towards my mother and pulled me a little bit, and I started walking through. I forgot to tell you about this. When I tried to get over to the other side of the room, I tried to walk over and bounced off of something that I couldn't see. It was transparent and invisible. That was the very beginning. I forgot to mention that was important. It was like I could see this side of the room. I was in this side of the room. The other side of the room, which was normal, I couldn't get to because something transparent that was there that was blocking me from getting there. But when this being grabbed my hand, I was able to walk right through it, going up to my mother, and my mother was looking at me, and she goes, "What are you doing? What's the matter?" And I looked at her. I said, "You won't believe." I was trying to explain to her really fast what happened. I was still holding on to this being's hand, and I turned around and said, "And all this happened, and this," and I looked, and the person was gone. And I looked at her, and I could see the rest of the room. My sister's there, and I looked back, and I said, I don't know what just happened. I told her, I said, there was a person here that was helping me, and she turned around, and I guess in her only way of understanding what was happening, she said that somebody was trying to do something spiritual. Well, she called it the occult. In the West Indies, they say somebody's doing the occult, and she kind of said that. But then I got back in bed, went to sleep, and went up the next morning. We never talked about it until years later when I remembered how weird that experience was. So if that wasn't just a weird experience, to me it was a spiritual experience in the sense that I was a very young, innocent kid, and I did call on God. And I don't know if that was God, but it was a person that helped me through a very hard situation, or a being that did so. I think that's really the important aspect of what I'm saying here. I think that's the main part. So, faith was an important factor to have there. The innocent, I guess, neutral or not neutral or pure intention of wanting nothing but help at that moment. There wasn't anything else attached to that intention, as a child. And I don't know. I up to this day, I don't know if that, sometimes I wonder and think if that was a extraterrestrial experience. Would I have been abducted by UFOs that night? Was it a spiritual experience? What exactly happened there? Because the thing that really struck out to me was that half the room was changed. It was like being in the what is it called? The holodeck on Star Trek, where they could see half the room normal, and they go into that room, the holodeck, and they can basically change it into what they want to. So that's kind of what it was like. I was in a holodeck. That's what it looked like inside that room, and inside my room at the time. And then when I tried to go through, there was an invisible barrier, a transparent barrier, which is is very weird, The more I think about how strange that is, the more, I want to, seek out answers about this. I'm very curious. So, anyway, I'll probably be on again doing another story, maybe around the same time, and I'm not too sure what time that is, but, whatever time this is right now, somewhere around that time, where you guys can email me. You can, text me if you know me. Contact me. There must be something here on YouTube to contact me. And I'm doing this really well. I'll probably put some stuff up here so you guys can, contact me. But do subscribe to this. Spread the word that I'm telling these great stories. I'm not a guru in India, and I was born here in America, and spirituality doesn't just manifest in one part of the world. Spirituality is the entire existence universe. We are all part of that, no matter what people tell you. All right, so this is me, Rav, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy.